Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Progress with number 3 in the series Viewers Games. This is a game sent to me by Stacey, and Stacey played white against Lursah. It was an online game, a 10-minute game, 10 minutes each for the whole game on the chess.com website. Let's have a look. Our viewer Stacey was white. e4, c5, bishop c4, knight c6, d3, e6, bishop d2, knight f6, knight c3, and bishop d6. This is the first moment that I have to make a little comment. I told you before that it's really important to occupy the center and develop your pieces. Well, that's white and black have done that nicely. They occupy the center and developed their pieces. The bishop d6 move also looks at the center and develops a piece, but it's a little bit unfortunate that it's blocking the d pawn, because black really wants to play the d pawn, which is the central pawn, up the board to d6 or maybe even to d5 if possible. And now the bishop stands in the way. So it's not a bad move, but it's a little bit illogical. There are some openings where even the grandmasters do this, put the bishop in front of their d pawn in the opening. But this is a typical example of when a grandmaster plays it, it's good. When an amateur plays it, it's bad. Let's continue. Knight f3, black castled, and Stacey played bishop g5. Playing with the same piece in the opening is also not a great idea in general as a rule of thumb. And Stacey already played bishop d2 on the fourth move, and then 3 moves later moves the bishop again. It's not a bad move, it's pinning the knight to the queen, but a more logical move would have been here to castle. Finish the development, complete the development. But okay, not a bad move. Position is about equal. b6 from Lursah, and now the first mistake in the game. e4, e5 by Stacey. Stacey himself or herself says, I think 8 e5 was a mistake. I didn't count what was protecting the pawn before I pushed it forward, but I managed to get something out of it in any case. I got lucky that I got the order right. Well, let's see what Stacey's talking about. He or she is right that e5 is a mistake, and it's a counting mistake. That pawn is only protected once by the knight on f3, and is attacked twice by both bishop and knight. So black can take it and win a pawn. That's what Lursah did. Knight takes e5, and then knight e4 from Stacey. That move is attacking the bishop on d6, and it's important to keep the knight protected. So there's a number of good moves here, but bishop c7 is one of them. It keeps the knights protected, it takes the bishop out of danger, and also it frees up the d pawn to come up the board. That would have been a good move. But Lursah played bishop e7, completely forgetting that he or she had to keep the knight on e5 protected. So Stacey took on e5, wins a full piece. White is now a piece up for a pawn. So white first gave away a pawn because it was not protected well enough, and now black does the same, gives away the knight on e5 by not protecting it enough. Knight takes e4 from Lursah, and now you have to be careful that you don't automatically take that piece back with d takes e4, because with the knight gone from f6 suddenly the bishop on g5 is hanging. Stacey saw that and played the correct in-between move. Bishop takes e7, attacking the queen, so that piece has to be taken back. And then Stacey took back on e4. And has a very nice position with extra material. d5, good move, playing up a central pawn. And now here Stacey said, move 13 was the start of getting myself into a bit of trouble. 13 bishop d3 would probably have been a better move. I saw that I'd have to take with the queen to ensure the knight remained protected, but I didn't see the bishop move to kick the queen, which is when the trouble started. Let's see what Stacey's talking about. Yes, the bishop on c4 is now attacked, so bishop d3 is an option here. And then black could kick it again with c5, c4. Bishop go to e2, and then black can, for example, take on e4. Still with a very good position for white. But Stacey took on d5 and could not see the sequence that comes now on the board. It's a forced sequence. Lursah took on d5 and with that move is attacking two pieces. Both the knight and the bishop are now attacked with that one move. The only way to protect them both is by taking the pawn, and that's what Stacey had planned, but what he or she had missed is bishop b7, a very strong move. Hitting the queen has to go and cannot keep protecting the knight. There's no square where the queen can go, no safe square that is, where the queen can go and keep protecting the knight. Queen went to d3, and now Lursah should have taken on e5, but decided, and this move was played after 6 seconds. It's not a lot of time to take for such a crucial move, not taking a piece back, but putting on the extra pressure with rook a e8. That's the move that was played. And Lursah must have thought that the knight can't go any way because the knight is pinned to the king, and that is correct. But here Stacey could have remained a piece up by playing f2, f4, simply protecting the knight. And your first instinct is then to attack it again with f7, f6. The knight is still pinned, but f7, f6 is a illegal move because of the bishop on c4. You are not allowed to make f6 according to the rules of the game, which means that white will have time to castle on the next move and then save his knight. So a mischance for Stacey, who decided to castle, which is a very logical move. If you don't see that you can save the piece, then you might as well use the time to put your king safe. So logical move, there was just a better move in the position. White could have saved the piece. Now Lursah took on e5 and got the piece back. If we count material, we have an equal position again, equal material, and the position overall is equal as well. c3 from Stacey, queen g5, eyeing up a kingside attack. There's a checkmate threat now on g2. Both queen and bishop are in the attack. Here, queen g3 was the right move, but Stacey played queen h3. It does make sense because Stacey has eyes on the h7 pawn, looking ahead to playing the bishop to d3 and then have his own threat on h7. But now a very strong move from Lursah. Rook e4, bringing another piece into the attack. It's attacking the bishop, and the attack on the white king gets very powerful now. Bishop d3 and rook h4. Black has to be careful, don't play rook g4 instead, which might look logical because you want to go at that king, but then you'll be surprised by queen takes h7, checkmate. So rook h4, good move, queen g3, and now the very strong rook g4. Some very strong maneuvers from black in this part of the game. Here Stacey played f4 and said, I got really lucky that I found move 21, f4. If I hadn't found it, the game would have been over very quickly. Yes, that is true, but even with f4, the game should have been over very quickly. In fact, black is already winning. f4 was played, and here black could have won immediately with rook takes g3, taking the queen, so you have to take the queen back on g5, and then there's a mate in 4. This is a very instructive mate to remember. It happens quite a lot in chess, this mate with rook and bishop. Let's have a look. Rook takes g2 check, king h1, rook g4 check, and you can only interpose the bishop, bishop takes, and you can only interpose the rook, bishop takes, and that's checkmate. A typical checkmate, as I said, from rook and bishop. Lursah didn't see that and played queen h5. Still winning. Bishop e2 looks like a clever move, skewering the rook and the queen. But black still wins by the move that was played in the game. Rook takes c3, bishop takes h5, you have to take the queen back. And now rook takes g2 check. This time Lursah saw it. King h1 only move, and now Lursah played rook g6 after 8 seconds and missed the mate in 2, so really should have taken a little bit more time here to see if there was a checkmate, and there was one. There was a very nice checkmate with rook g4 check. And why does the rook have to go there? To interfere with the bishop covering the f3 square. Because now the only legal move is rook f3, and you take it with the bishop, and it's checkmate. But by going to g6, the bishop still had the f3 square. So bishop f3 played by Stacey, and the checkmate is gone. Bishop a6, hitting the rook, rook g1. Now white is out of danger, the white king is safe. Position is still somewhat better for black because of the extra pawn, but there's no checkmate danger anymore. Rook f6, avoiding the rook trade. Rook g4, rook e8, king g2, good move, bringing the king closer to the center, which is always good to do in the endgame. In the endgame the king wants to be active, not in the opening, not in the middle game, but in the endgame the king needs to be at the party. h5, hitting the rook, rook h4, g6, rook d1, king g7, and now a strange move from Stacey, king h3. That's going the wrong way. As I said, the king wants to be in the center, wants to be active in the endgame, and on h3, well, it's not clear what it's doing there. Bishop e2 and rook e1 seems like a clever move, because if you take the bishop with black, then the rook falls on e8, the rook there is unprotected. And now the bishop is attacked twice, but it doesn't work. You don't win material here. If black had played rook fe6, just protecting the bishop again, that would have been no trouble. But Lursah played another, also an inexplicable move, king h6, and just gives away the piece on e2. Stacey should have taken this with the rook. Rook takes e2 is the move that makes sense, because with the move that was played, bishop takes e2, you put yourself into a pin. If now Lursah had played rook fe6, then he wins the bishop, because it can't go, it can't move because of the unprotected rook on e1, and it's attacked twice, and you cannot protect it again. So a lot of missed chances from both white and black. We can't be too tough on them. It was a 10-minute game and they were starting to get low on time. But again, after king h6, taking with the rook would have been a very logical move, and taking with the bishop is asking for trouble. Okay, back to the game. Bishop takes e2, as said, and instead of rook fe6, Lursah played rook e3 check, king g2, and now the very strange move g5, just giving away the h5 pawn with check. The rook on h4 was not positioned well, and by playing that g6 g5 move, black helps white activating that rook. Rook takes, Stacey played the right move, king g6, and rook takes another pawn, king h7, and now white is completely winning. f5, rook h6, king f2 attacking the rook, rook went back to e7, bishop d3, and here Lursah played f6, bishop d3. One of the ideas, of course, is to play f5, f6 with a discovered attack on the rook. Lursah must have seen that, and that's why f6 was played, but Lursah completely overlooked that bishop d3 also causes the rook on e1 to suddenly attack the rook on e7. So f6 is a blunder because of rook takes e7 check as played by Stacey, who is now obviously completely winning with a rook and a bishop to the good. Also by taking on e7 it's check, so Lursah doesn't even have time to take the rook on g5. King h8, rook g6, good move. Rook takes, as we say, a dying person can eat everything. If you're losing, you might as well take a pawn or whatever you can get. King c3, and now Stacey only had seconds left, and that explains the next move from Lursah. He played a check, playing on white's time pressure, king takes, and c4, and white overstepped the time limit, which is a big shame because, of course, it's made in a few moves. If Stacey had had a few seconds left, then he or she would have seen the mate in 2 with rook e4, and if then black takes the bishop, there's rook h4 checkmate. So Stacey is the moral winner of this game, even though Lursah won it because white ran out of time. Interesting game, lots of ebbs and flows, lots of instructive moments, I think. I hope you think the same. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Progress channel, and I'm looking forward to your comments. And if you want to send in your own game, please do. I will make videos on all the games I get in the order that they come in. This is Rick from Chess to Progress. Thank you for watching.